Hi, welcome or welcome back. My name is Rachel. That is the R in the RK Stumblingbear, and I'm a reader and a writer. And I'm back because I finished a category for the HRCYED 2.0 reading challenge. I have been low-key doing this. If my reading works and fits prompts, I've been marking it as completed. I am not surprised that the first one I finished was subgenres of choice because I chose the subgenres of sci-fi, which is my favorite reading and what I read the most of last year. To complete this challenge, you had to read 6 books, and you got to choose which of the subgenres you wanted to use. And so I'm just going to go in the order of which I read them and let you know what I've marked them as. So I first chose adventure, which is kind of like space opera, and for this one I am using Bisection by Sheila Janae. This was one of our finalists for the last self-published science fiction contest book, which is why it was one of the first ones I completed for this. And this is definitely a journey with the characters traveling through space and meeting different alien races and having to deal with bigger implications of the universe. Yeah, perfect for sci-fi space opera adventure. For the second subgenre, I have mystery. I have found that I really like sci-fi mystery blends, and for this one I have Murder by Memory, which I read twice last year. So I also read it in July, and I was like, I'm using that for my reread. Uses pretty early, and this follows Dorothy Gentleman, who is one of the ship's detectives on a generation ship that nobody actually is having children. They just kind of reclone their bodies and live young again until they grow old. But she's a detective and wakes up in somebody else's body, and that's the mystery. Then I have the subgenre of time travel, which I am not a big fan of, I'll be honest. But I really enjoyed To Say Nothing of the Dog by Connie Willis. And she has a time travel series, which if you see, I have the Book of Doomsday over here, which is actually the first, but I read this one first instead. And it was fine. I don't think that you need to read them in order. I think they follow different people and different characters. So in this one, we are following Ned, who is time sick. He's been used to jump too many times back and forth in time, and it's causing him to get loopy. And he's doing this for a woman who is working on a restoration of this famous chapel. And in order to, I guess, protect him and to fix an error that somebody else did, he's sent back to the Victorian times. And just, I'm not going to say chaos ensues, but definitely because he was sick, he didn't understand everything that was going on. And so it takes him a while to meet up with who he's supposed to meet up with and figure things out from there. And yeah. But I actually really enjoyed this. You have the discussions of time travel, and it goes back to, I guess usually my biggest gripe with time travel is it doesn't matter what you do, it's like supposed to happen. And in this, you sort of have that, but you also have the discussion of where time will fix itself because it likes a certain version of things. So sometimes things do change based off of what events are the most important and need to happen. I'm probably not describing that very well at all, but I really did enjoy it. The next subgenre I have is cozy sci-fi. Now, I realize that cozy fantasy, a lot of people think it came big with Legends and Lattes and Can't Spell Treason Without Tea, but no. That's not true. Cozy has existed for a while, but it just wasn't recognized as a subgenre for a long time. And I am reading It's called the Starfarers Quartet. I'm using actually the second book, Transition, as my cozy prompt on this one, but cozy really is just a book that instead of following a plot, it's following the characters, and you get to see more of their daily lives. And that is definitely Transition. This book was also a lot hornier than I was expecting. But we have a group of scientists who have taken their starship and done interstellar travel. They've jumped to another location, and they're trying to meet up with the aliens who have offered an invitation, but due to some events at the end of the last book, that invitation gets rescinded, but in the most back-ass backwards way ever. Basically, they get ghosted. And when they ignore the ghosting because they're like, we're here, you talk to us, and they finally made up the characters, they're like, well, we did this, so you were supposed to get the hint. I was enraged by that conversation because even in real life, ghosting is not okay. Overall, this is actually a cozy read. It really is. And it's been nice based off of other stressors in life. So the next sci-fi genre I have is military sci-fi, which is something I actually really like to read a lot of. And for this one, I am using The Ghost Brigades by John Scalzi. This is number 2 in Old Man's War. My husband recently has gotten into this, and so we bought him the first 4 books. And I finally read the second book in this series. I read the first one many years ago, and this is following the Ghost Brigades, which, if you haven't read The Old Man's War, you might just skip to the next subgenre I'm going to mention, because I'm going to slightly spoil it. So for the Ghost Brigades, these are, the premise of all of this is there's a interstellar war going on, and you can become a soldier if you're 75 or older. Because part of the process is you get a new body, and you have to leave Earth. You can't go back. So some people who have signed up to be a soldier die before they turn 75. However, their DNA and information is still in the military system, and so a body has been created for them, and they will wake that body up, just not having moved your consciousness over, so it's a new person, and that hence the Ghost Brigades. So really enjoy this. And then the last subgenre I have is dystopian, which I hate. I think I might actually hate it more than time travel. But this book that I'm using for this has been on my radar for many, many years and is on my 50 to read before I turn 50 list. And that was 1984 by George Orwell. And I got to the second part and I DNF'd it. So, and you might be like, wait a minute, but you're using this? I'm like, yeah, I used my DNF credit to get to use this prompt. I understand all the conversations that 1984 is having. I'm just bored of them. And maybe when it first came out, it was revolutionary, but again, going like dystopian, I just don't enjoy. So I have finished my first category. I plan, as I finish other categories, to come back and tell you about the categories that I have finished and what books I read for those prompts. If you are doing this as well, I'd love to know which genre are you using for this category and what books have you read. Thank you and have a great day.